Thanks, Chair. Thanks to everyone for coming to us today. And yeah, isn't it amazing to think that it's only, 2 years? Is it only 2 years that we have the department? For 3, but 2 years of the report, of the performance report, I suppose, that we have before us. So well done when you think of it. It's a brand new organisation, brand new department. There's lots of excitement and ambition, and I know new systems, and all of this does take time to bed down. But I must admit there are some really positives just in the report that I've seen here, just around the apprenticeship figures. I think you're over your targets on that. I suppose we're just looking at the targets. It's an easy one to look at, the targets. Very hard, I suppose, when people are setting these targets, that they're able to meet them, but it's absolutely wonderful when you see that they're able to go over and above in terms of the targets around apprenticeships. So I just see an increase here, I think 26,325. So maybe someone might like to speak to me just about that, where and in what programs. We have over 70 types of apprenticeship at the moment. What areas are we seeing the increase in? I know we've talked a little bit here, and I think, Mr. Howard, you were speaking on the PhDs and postdocs. I know it's already been explored here as well in the committee. I suppose what I would just like to ask is a little bit around the GDP and GNI and all these wonderful terms we use to identify. I suppose what I want to identify is how much is going into third level research. We have sometimes figures for R&D that includes industry and corporate and everything else. I suppose, is there a way for us, or what figures would you identify to show what's going into third level research? Because of course we've Science Foundation Ireland now and the IRC, but then there's all these other groups, like there's Teagasc and SEAI and GSI and the Geographical Survey of Ireland, and they all have pockets, now smaller, a lot smaller pockets of funding, but these are all competitive programs as well. They're out there to support research across many different areas. So I suppose if I might ask a question to whomever it's most relevant, but just what is the correct measure that we should be looking at, and then what is it at the moment, and where should we be? Because Ireland's ranking in terms of innovation is falling, and that's a key, I'd say, area that we want to focus on, and that we will be doing when we have our new Research Innovation Ireland agency. And I suppose some of the questions maybe for Dr. Lillis around that might be, when do we see that Research Innovation Ireland agency? What are the steps for us to get there? Because I know we had all the legislation only a little while ago, and we were speaking on it here in the Shannon and in the Dáil as well. One of the key things for me, Dr. Lillis, is around the Government Science Advisor. I have worked previously, obviously, in Science Foundation Ireland and in Enterprise Ireland, but as an administrative person. But I do very much know the importance and the key role that was played by both the Chief Executive at that time. That was a dual role with the Government Science Advisor role. But, it is something I think we are lacking. We need a voice telling us in government what it is that we need to see at third level, and sometimes it can be difficult for people within departments to do that. So that voice, I think, is missing at the moment. But I do know from Minister Harris that role is out there. I believe it's been actively worked on. So I suppose, is there an update around the Government Science Advisor role, and when do we see that that's going to be put in place? And if I might just leave those questions for a moment just with you, and then if I have time with the chair, I might come back in again. Thank you. Thank you.
Apologies, sorry. I suppose on the funding question, our latest ranking is the European Innovation Scoreboard or Scorecard, I can never remember. We're still in the Strong Innovators group, and yes, we're told really not to worry too much if you're ranked 7th or 8th or 9th. It's more that you stay in the category that you're in. So we're still very much a strong innovator, and I think what's really important is that we benchmark against other small advanced economies, not UK, US, Germany, that it's maybe Finland and Denmark and people who are more like us to get good benchmarking on that. I suppose in terms of expenditure in research, I think we had the highest level of overall expenditure on research ever in 2021. It was an 81% increase since 2010.
81%, is that?
81% since 2010.
Is that incredible?
Which is, it's a success story, to be fair. the expenditure on higher education R&D, which is the funding into the universities typically, increased by 8% since 2018. I suppose there is a challenge in that our expenditure is fixed under the NDP, but we are also, I suppose, looking for alternative sources. We've done very well, for example, from the Shared Island Fund, building collaborative research links there. We've a new programme, Innovate for Ireland, which is tapping into enterprise funding for research. We've done well on European schemes as well. So I suppose being a little bit more creative as well. And I think the work that Trudy's doing, building the civil service research network, bringing in other government departments, helping them run research funding calls and connecting that back to their policy. I think all of that will assist there. In relation to the research bill, we're near finalising a draft with OPC. In the next few weeks, we would hope, and bringing the stamp bill probably, reluctant to give a date, but because it's not in our control fully, but you know, we will be establishing the agency as soon as practical, I think, once the bill works through the houses.
And sorry, apologies, I don't know the OPC, but is there a time frame? Are we talking 6 months, a year?
I would say 3 months maybe would be kind of, I mean, it has to go through the Oireachtas, obviously, so we're not in control of that piece of it, so, but I think the work, Paddy's closer to this, sorry.
Yeah, it's just to say sort of it's as Dr. Lillis says, we're engaged in the kind of legal drafting work at the moment, and look, that's coming along fine. And as Dr. Lillis says, a little bit reluctant to give it an absolute deadline, we don't. But I suppose our broad picture would be, I expect we'll be publishing a bill this year, assuming the approval, and then I suppose enactment. I don't know. Again, it's, as one would say, if the Oireachtas is willing, hopefully early in the new year, and it'd be, you know, I suppose maybe 2 months after that might be the date that you could actually see the new agency in existence. But just to be clear, like the process, obviously the administrative process of bringing the two agencies together has commenced, so that, you know, it's in anticipation of the kind of the feeling that the new agency will come into being. We are doing that kind of work in terms of
integrating systems.
Exactly, that's it.
Because an awful lot of the competitive funding is online.
Correct, and that's, like I said, that work will, I suppose, mean that we hope that, you know, it's not a surprise to anybody the decision's been made, but that when we're formally constituting the body, we'll find that, you know, the process has been done.
May I ask, just in terms of the peer review funding, and will there be any I suppose what I don't want to see is I don't see any impact to the existing programmes out there that have been run and how they're been run. Like with this sort of plan over the next year to 2 years, how are you planning to ensure that minimum impact maybe to existing peer review processes, funding competitions that are out there at the moment, particularly for our stellar, you know, centres of excellence across the board? You know, I don't know how. Is there a group, I suppose, a magic group somewhere that's got a big plan that is working on this, and both at an operational level and maybe at a strategic level?
Yes, and the way I put it to you, Senator, is that what we've sort of said is that we look for continuity in funding in existing programmes at the moment. Now, obviously, when the new body comes into existence, the new body will then be stirring it. And I think in previous conversations around this, we've noted that word of balance, that the new agency, a job that will have is to find a balance between the different kinds of research and all that kind of good stuff. But in the initial phase, no big shocks. So no big shocks in the immediate period until new agency is actually in existence.
And thank you. That is good to know. I think that will bring a lot of relief to a lot of other groups as well. If I might bring back just the other question I was asking, if that's okay with the chair, but just Dr. Lillis, just particularly around the government science advisor role, is that one what are the actions to date on that, and when is that planned?
Sure. I might just note as well on the CEO, we've appointed the CEO designate, and we have advertised for the board of Research Ireland, which is the new research agency, so that's in train as well. So
for the new agency?
For the new agency, sorry.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. That's great news, isn't it?
That's it. So
that's really good.
We're moving as much as we can forward.
Yes, very good.
In relation to Government Science Advisor, good news there. It's advertised on the Public Appointment Service at the moment.
Okay.
The PAS are conducting an international search, I think, and that will go through the PAS process probably over maybe an 8 to 10 week period, I'm guessing. It's the TLAC, the top level appointments committee process. Once appointed, the Government Science Advisor will establish the National Science Forum, which will be maybe 12 experts in various different fields. Yeah. I suppose as part of that as well, we're looking to increase our connectivity into some of the main international organisations like the European Joint Research Centre. It's just not Irish advice, that it's international
so
advice.
We'll have international people, industry people maybe on this as well, as obviously our academic experts across the fields of the arts, the science, humanities and so on. So is that how we would see it been structured? So you're linking in with how you get non-exchequer funding as well as funding from other partner agencies?
Yeah, we're hoping
within this National Science Forum, or is it more citizen science? Is it? Or?
No, it's more experts' view on science, and certainly a balance between academic and enterprise. I think we'd also be looking for people who have experience of the policy making process. That it's just because it's the right answer from a scientific perspective doesn't mean it's the right political answer, or that it'll be acceptable to citizens and that. So I suppose one of the first tasks of the Government Science Advisor will be to come up with the appropriate composition of that forum. There's also, I suppose, a dual role for the Government Science Advisor to work across government departments to develop their science advice capacity as well, fully recognising that a lot of departments have their own expert sources as well, but there will be a role to pull all that together.
To pull all the departments. Yeah. And Dr. Lillis, can I ask you, when ideally would you see, I know you're in the middle of recruitment at the moment, hopefully a big advert out now to anybody who wants to apply Government Science Advisor role here in Ireland. Wonderful, wonderful in terms of how we're performing in terms of our research and the amazing excellence that we have here. But when do you think that person may be in situ, ideally, if things went to plan?
It's probably best case, maybe March, April, because
next year.
Presumably we'll be getting somebody quite senior. They'll have a period of notice to give, etc. So maybe best case March, April, and as soon as possible after that, I think.
Okay. May I just ask one or two other questions, if I may? Just then on ETBs, there was different things mentioned here just around the apprenticeship programme. We just spoke just briefly there about the increase. You're going over your targets. You're over your targets as well, I think, in terms of women that you're trying to target onto the different programmes in the apprenticeship one. If I might talk about the role of ETBs here, in particular, I'm looking at this from a Roscommon Galway perspective, and now in our new constituency of Roscommon Galway, we don't have a third level campus. Previously we had Mount Bellew, which was the third level campus indicated with the TUs and with ATU. Now in Roscommon Galway, within that constituency, we do not have a third level training centre. And I suppose my question here would be a demand around apprenticeship training, particularly for the Roscommon area. And I know that that's something hopefully that is being considered at the moment within the department. But just to speak maybe a little bit maybe around the apprenticeship, the increase in apprenticeships and women, if I might just ask that question. And then secondly, just in relation to Sally, now you're going over and above your targets, I think, in terms of women on the apprenticeship programme, but the Sally, the Senior Academic Leadership Programme, where we're looking at targeting women into senior academic roles. If I might ask someone to speak to me on that, because that is not currently reaching target. I mean, targets for that seem to be higher, about 45 in 2022, currently at 30. I don't know, are these new people coming in each year? You might just clarify that. And then thirdly, just women on research teams, just that Programme C update that was there. I wasn't sure, did that mean by each research team? And again, it was a target, I know, for Science Foundation Ireland, of course, at 35%. And again, more challenging in the STEM areas, I understand that, compared to humanities. But just a little bit there around the gender balance, please. Thank you.
In relation to Mount Bellew, Senator, if memory serves me correctly, I think Minister Harris was there Monday last week.
Yes, he visited, and we were hoping to have funding, you might speak to this too, but funding for veterinary courses for big animals, I hope, in Mount Bellew, and courses there that are really important, yeah.
Absolutely, and my understanding is that that actually is a training location for some of the new farming apprenticeships that we have on offer.
Which is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Just within our constituencies changed with the census last time, and so that is wonderful, and that currently sits within the Galway East. I suppose I'm speaking here about the Roscommon Galway constituency currently, and currently within the county of Roscommon, the ETBs would be active there, but we currently don't have apprenticeship training. So I suppose just there's an increase in apprenticeship programmes, there's an increase in terms of women on programmes, but just what are your plans maybe for expanding that, maybe the centres across the country?
If you have got a reply now,
yeah,
you can forward it directly on to the, because I know it is a little bit beyond the scope of what you're being brought in for, okay? It's a little bit parochial, but if you would reply directly to the clerk.
Sure, I could give kind of a headline
Yeah,
if you want
okay.
to, if that's okay. So what I can say is that Solus accepts capital proposals from ETBs around the country, and in relation to apprenticeship training, they are then considered and they are passed on to the department. So if a submission is to be made, then it can be considered either by Solus or the department.
Yeah, I believe that process hopefully will be happening. Yeah, but thank you very much. And I know time might be short. I might come in later, Chair, if there's time at the end.
Definitely.